This is WGRG 100.5 FM, where we meet the absolute minimum FCC broadcasting standards. It's time to hang on and brace yourself for a community radio program that's frankly indescribable. Let's talk Geneseo. Two guys with nothing better to do on a Friday morning but to talk about our community. Geneseo City Administrator Brandon Meglin and City Alderman Keith Kennett. And yeah, nobody, and I mean nobody, puts the blah in blah, blah, blah like these guys do.
And there we go. Good Friday morning to our listeners. You're listening to Let's Talk Geneseo here on Geneseo's 100-watt flamethrower, WGRG 100.5 FM, where we maximize your entertainment wattage.
Yes, 100% free every week.
That's exactly right, Brandon. I'm Keith Kennett, along with Brandon Meglin for our weekly edition here. So, good morning, Brandon. Always nice to start the final day of the work week off with you, as we do most every week, unless we can figure out a way to get out of doing it.
And it's a dry Friday morning this week. That's nice. Sure. Get some grass cut out there in the parks and cemeteries today, so that's always a positive.
There you go. And I know you're a recent homeowner. I mean, are you enjoying I don't know if you had grass mowing responsibilities previously, but as a homeowner, that's always an exciting time.
Yeah. I think I'll be on my third cut tonight. So
very nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Walking mower or a rider?
I'm a walker.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't have the room in the garage for a rider. The yard's big enough, but it's not going to happen.
All right.
You know, something else I realized sitting here was looking at our YouTube channel. I think this is episode number 25.
Our 25th program.
You should have brought a cake in for us, Gene, for our 25th episode. I know you've listened to all of them diligently since last August, so.
Yeah, we're not. We know that Gene has listened, so we appreciate that aspect. Yeah, it's like when you have like a child. And just write it out here. It'll make sense, I hope. But you put a plate of food down, and the child looks at it and goes, I just don't want it. And you say, well, just try one bite. And that's kind of the Let's Talk Geneseo motto here. Just try one bite. If you shake your head and go, wow, that was bad, and you don't want to come back, okay. That's all right.
Some people spit it out on the floor, but not everybody.
Not everybody. Yeah. You might be one of those people that go, hey, you know what? Even though it didn't look that good, it really is quite delicious and healthy.
Yeah, I was telling you, we had the Hammond Henry annual fundraiser dinner was this past Monday night at Lavender Crest in Kelowna, and found out from some new people, that they actually turn this program on the radio or on Channel 50. So every week we have more viewers out there, and I think the numbers continue to grow. So.
We are without a doubt on the latest Nielsen rating, actually. I believe we are the #1 rated talk program that is produced locally in Geneseo on only one morning a week.
Within city limits.
Correct.
Don't go outside of city limits on that stand.
And at 100 watts of power.
Right.
So, there you go.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll turn it over, though, to Brandon. I know we have two guests with us this morning that we're happy to have in with us. And as per usual, Brandon, we'll kind of turn the serious stuff over to you.
Yeah. So fortunate this morning, we have kind of already alluded to it, Deputy Chief of Police Gene Carson in with us this morning, as well as Matt Swanson, the Director of the Henry County ETSB. I want to welcome both of you guys to the program.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Good morning.
And as always, I can't believe we haven't had Gene on here yet. I feel like I mentioned Gene's name a lot in a lot of the things that we talk about and events and things going on with the police department. But
Gene's so involved in everything. But yes, this is he's done well to avoid
I'm kind of
having to come in and do this.
I'm kind of a background kind of guy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, but so, new guests, first time on the show, probably not the last, but we like to put everybody on the spot. Gene has a long history in the law enforcement community here in the Quad Cities. So, Gene, why don't you give us your backstory a little bit and tell us how you got to Geneseo?
Oh, that's a good question. I started in policing in Louisiana, so I got a little bit of an accent at times, so you got to bear with me. I did 4 years down there. I worked narcotics for most of those years down there in southern Louisiana. Came back home. I'm from Rock Island. My dad was an officer in Rock Island. I joined them in 1988 and worked for them for the next 25 years. Went to the federal courts, worked as an investigator for them until February of 12 when I came to Geneseo, right about that time, and been here ever since. It's absolute fabulous experience for me to be here, and I really enjoy my time. I'll be a police officer for 40 years this year.
Wow.
So I've been doing it for quite a long time and have no intention of stopping.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what, and Gene, thank you for your service. Doesn't seem enough, but 40 years, that's quite a bit of dedication to public service, though. So
Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, and actually, both Matt and I kind of have family ties or ties to you in some way from your past careers in the Quad Cities. My dad was a Rock Island firefighter that worked with Gene in the city of Rock Island, and I think Matt, you roomed with Gene's son somewhere in your career path, right?
Yep, I did room with Gene's son when I lived out in Las Vegas a couple years ago. So.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't we, Matt, can you kind of give us your story a little bit here too, and kind of what your new role is with the county?
Absolutely. So I actually grew up in Henry County, so taking the position here last year was kind of a homecoming for me. I've been in 911 since 2006, so almost 18 years now. So I have a little bit of history with that, but coming back to Henry County to lead the ETSB was definitely a no-brainer for me. I'm excited for the opportunities that are coming to 911 for Geneseo and Henry County. So
Awesome. So what we wanted to get into with these guys a little bit today was thought it'd be good timing to talk. Next week we'll have Zach in with the Chamber to talk about one of the first big outdoor events on State Street, which is the Art Walk. But we're entering event season, and every year we seem to pull more people into Geneseo for these events. So a big part of that, as Gene mentioned, he does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work, and one of the big things that he is tasked with is a lot of the operational, I would say, and the logistics work of the police department when it comes to big events and making sure that they run smoothly and run safely. A lot of the stuff you don't see behind the scenes, that all the prep work that happens, coordinating with the organizations that hold these events. Mainly that's the Chamber for us, but it takes a lot more than just the Chamber and a couple of police officers to pull these things off. So, Gene, maybe you can just kind of introduce us to some of the things that the PD has stepped up and some of our partner agencies over the past few years to do to coordinate these events and kind of upgrade the safety aspect of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Several years ago, we sat down after I became deputy chief out here, and we started discussing all the major events that occur in Geneseo, and as well as the smaller ones. I know the Chamber puts on, it looks like 18 events this year they have coming up, so there's quite a few that we get involved with, and that's not even counting a lot of the runs that they do. If you've been to any events lately, you'll see that we're taking the security of the event and the safety of the citizens in mind throughout the event. You'll notice that we used to do barricades to block off streets. Now we do barricades with blocks and devices that are called pitagons that prevent vehicles from driving through any event. The reason we started doing that, I'll go back to Wisconsin, where the one car drove through the parade and there were several people killed and injured, and we said we're going to step up our game. We're gonna do a lot more and be a lot more involved in these events. And I brought just Christmas walk procedure with me, and it's 61 pages long. We're trying to look at every single aspect of what we can do to provide the safety for the citizens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so tell us about, it's not just Geneseo police officers that participate in this. There's other people on the streets and involved in the process, right? Oh,
yeah, absolutely. So we when we're making these plans, we are in deep discussions with not only the Chamber, but the fire department, the ambulance, Henry County Sheriff's Department, even Atkinson Police Department gets involved. as well as our ETSB, the dispatchers, because the dispatchers are the hub of all the information. They have the plans, they've read the plans, they've reviewed the plans, and if something were to happen, they kind of take over directing the incident. So they'll be out there making sure the cars are where they need to go, or the ambulance or the fire department, whatever happens. And that's kind of why, when we're talking about coming in here and putting something on about the events, I said what starts it and what kind of everything works around is the dispatch centers that we have here in Henry County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And with that, we'll kind of transition over to Matt a little bit to tell us about how does Henry County integrate with Geneseo. A lot of people probably don't know how it works. Some people, everybody knows to dial 911. We have a lot of citizens that still call the 7-digit line into the police department, the 5141 number. How does all that work with what you do with ETSB?
Absolutely. So obviously 911 dispatch centers, like Gene said, they're the hub of public safety. We're here to keep everyone safe and provide a valuable service to the communities. So in Geneseo, when you call 911, you're actually going to the Henry County Sheriff's Office. A couple years back, the state, in order to streamline the process, cut down on the number of what they call PSAPs, public safety answering points, in the state of Illinois. So every county was given the directive to cut some of the dispatch centers that they have. So at that time, all 911 service started going to the sheriff's office. And then Geneseo, the city, decided to maintain their dispatch center still, just to provide that extra layer of protection to the community, which is a great benefit to have. A lot of cities the size of Geneseo don't have that for themselves, so that's a valuable service to the citizens of Geneseo. One way that we're trying to improve the interoperability between the agencies, like Gene said, for the large events that the city has going on, is communications interoperability. The old way of doing things were on VHF radios that some agencies can't talk to other agencies, or if you're too far away, you can't hear. So we're actually putting up a new tower in Geneseo that's going to help out with a lot of that, moving over to digital radios instead of the old analog system. So it's all focused on public safety and tying 911 and all of the other departments together.
Nice. And that becomes important during events too, I guess. I mean, can you guys talk a little bit about that? If there was a big incident or a big event, 8,000 people at Christmas Walk, and something occurred where other agencies had to come in, this upgrade to this digital system, which is called Starcom, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
So it's all through the internet essentially now, right? Rather than the airwaves. How is that important when you're talking about especially a multi-agency event or response?
Yeah, like Gene said, there are plans in place for every event that the city hosts. Those plans involve multiple agencies. The city, like Gene alluded to, Atkinson, the Sheriff's Office, the Office of Emergency Management. There are so many agencies that come together for events like this that being on the same radio system is going to help out immensely. We're already on the same radio system with the VHF, the way that it's currently set up. This is just going to expand upon that and make it so Gene can talk to a sheriff's deputy if he needs to, or talk to an Atkinson police officer if he needs to, just to make sure that the plans that are initiated for these events can be effectively administered throughout.
Right, and kind of going on to that there's pretty much 5 major events that we have in Geneseo, and for those events, we try and bring in the incident command center. Everybody will see it's like a big motor home that's sitting out there. That's ILEAS. In that center, there's not only offices for the planning of an event or the control of an incident, but there's also dispatch centers in there. So we can bring dispatchers on site and run an incident with our dispatchers and our command personnel, directing them on where people need to go and what they need to do. So we're not going to stay in Henry County. We're not going to stay in Geneseo. If something major happens, we can bring them on site and have more control over the whole situation from one central point as well.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other thing with events too, I think It's important to mention that Henry County has an auxiliary sheriff's department, right? I mean, people see them at events in the brown uniforms too. Those are mainly auxiliary officers that have to go out with a Geneseo police officer, right? You guys kind of work hand in hand from the volunteer standpoint?
Correct. So what we do is, I mean, we have the high school graduation parade coming up. When we need extra hand, I reach out to the sheriff's department, and we get a hold of them. And the Henry County Auxiliary always sends people to help us out. I mean, and they volunteer their time. They're great individuals. A lot of them are prior law enforcement. If we need help, they'll come out. I mean, they're a different program than us. I mean, officers that are sworn have different abilities. We have arrest abilities and stuff like that where they don't. But if they're with one of our Geneseo officers side by side, or accident officers side by side, they now take on the authority that officer has. They can arrest somebody, they can cite somebody, as long as we're all together. But it goes down to, we couldn't hold these events without the auxiliary helping out. It's just the number of people that are required to be on site in case something happens. We have 15 officers in Geneseo, and we have to have people on the street. There's people off. There's people on vacation. And in order to do this the right way, we started reaching out to them probably 3-4 years ago, and they've never let us down. They've always said, yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah. One of the other things that makes me think of, too, that a lot of people have questions about, at a lot of the events now, you see drones in the air. And, I mean, so Henry County has a really, and you can talk about this better than I can, Gene, but they have a pretty advanced drone that it's not up there just for playtime, right? It's actually doing a job, and we've seen incidents around the country where it becomes critical to look at rooftops of buildings, and maybe you can kind of tell us what that's all about.
Yeah, again, even prior to some of these incidents where there was an active shooter incident at an event from a rooftop, even prior to that, we were, from time to time at these events, getting up, checking roofs. We had locations we can get up and get up high and be able to see them. But since then, Sheriff's Department was able to get a drone from one of the local foundations. They donated the money. One of the Geneseo Foundation, I believe, donated the money. They fly during our events. We ask them to do that, and they check the rooftops to make sure, there's nothing out of order, nothing out of place, just kind of an extra layer of protection. They also take pictures for us at the event, so we would like that as well, just kind of document it. But the purpose is not for the pictures. It's more for the rooftops and making sure, again, checking every box that we can think of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, great. Well, it also is Telecommunicators Week this week, too. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that.
And Brandon, maybe you could explain, what is a telecommunicator?
Let's let Matt tell us what a telecommunicator is.
Yeah, a telecommunicator.
Nicely done, Brandon.
Right. Way to go. Thank you. A telecommunicator is essentially a dispatcher, a 911 dispatcher, or a police dispatcher. They're the people that answer the phones when you call in for help. They're the people that dispatch the responders to you. They're essentially event coordinators for emergency events. They document all of the apparatus that are going to the call. They timestamp everything. They make sure that you're getting what you need. But they're more than that too. They're also they deliver babies over the phone. They provide CPR instructions on a daily basis to people who call in with someone in cardiac arrest. So they're really the first responders is what we like to call them. And the team here in Geneseo and Henry County do a great job working together, making sure that the public is served. So happy Telecommunicator Week to all the telecommunicators out there. I'm sure they're all up at 7:49 a.m. listening. Yeah, that's essentially, they're the first responders.
And I would imagine, too, that there's or maybe not, and not to go inside baseball, but if there is maybe an incident that evolves, that a lot of times, too, they become critical insofar as, again, just kind of keeping things or helping to keep things organized in what might become a quickly foggy situation. Absolutely.
So dispatchers have the benefit of being able to get a view of the full picture. So if Gene's on, out at one of the events, he has what's in front of him, and he has some situational awareness about what's going on, head's always on swivel. But a dispatcher has the opportunity to take a look at the big picture and say, hey, we have a gap over here on this street. We need to get somebody over here to help fill that. So,
and kind of going into that, the way they have it set up, and we're improving on it, is with GPS mapping. So we know where all the squads are, all the officers are. Me standing on a street corner or sitting in the command center when the dispatcher isn't there with all the equipment up, I have a general, like Matt says, a general idea of where people are at, but they know where they're at. And we rely on them to keep us informed and make sure there's no holes in the system. I guess there's been a couple times where we've evacuated areas because of incidents. And it's the manpower that comes in and the woman power that come in over the course of a major incident is just astounding. I want to say we had a major incident on Main Street several years ago, and there was, I would say, 75 to 100 police officers there. And we relied on dispatch to help us organize and keep track of what was occurring.
And maybe back to even to a more basic 911 question. Used to be everybody had a landline back when we rode our horse to work and all that stuff. But landlines are kind of becoming increasingly more rare. Everyone's relying on a cell phone and this and that. So you do the 911 call, but sometimes even if you're on the road, you may not know exactly where you are or you need help or what have you. But the systems now are able to, can they largely identify where you're calling from, so it isn't critical to actually know your physical location, or kind of how does all that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Henry County, we use a system called Rapid SOS. It's part of our next generation 911 system. Everything used to be analog, and it used to depend upon what they called wireless phase 2, which is a triangulation based on the towers of where your approximate location is. So 911 is actually starting to use more better data to find out exactly where you're at. So it's the same data that Uber uses when you open up the app and try to order a ride there. So it's actually pinpoint location on where you're at, based on, again, moving away from the analog technology to the IP technology. So the same thing we're doing with the radios, we're just investing in that infrastructure with 911 as well. So it can pinpoint to a pretty good accuracy now. We're also getting to the point where we can accept not only text messages, but multimedia messages, videos, pictures from scenes. So if you call in and say there's a house fire, and you can, in the future, you're going to be able to send a video of that so the dispatcher can get a better view of what's actually going on in that situation.
Wow.
So,
Well, I guess with the tracking of the individual's phone or device that they're calling us on, kind of leads back to the accidental 911s. We get those all the time. Somebody accidentally dials us for whatever reason. The policy of the Geneseo Police Department is, even if we get a hold of you and say, hey, it was an accidental dial, we're going to send somebody out. We just want to make sure, because lots of things can happen. We're not going to take it on face value, so we go out, which the GPS location on the device is tremendously helpful for us.
absolutely, 100%. And to expand on what Gene said, if you accidentally dial 911, please stay on the line and talk to the dispatcher and let them know what is going on, because it takes a lot of resources to try to track down where somebody is and who's calling and what they could potentially need. And so just stay on the line, tell them it was an accident. Accidents happen all the time.
Yep.
Anything else exciting coming up with GPD or Henry County, ETSB? Anything else you guys want to mention?
Again, we're always looking at improving and trying to make things better and safer, and how we function as a entity. The ETSB, I sit on the board for the ETSB for the city of Geneseo. There's multiple people on it. 13 people. There you go. People sit on it. And these decisions are made as a whole. We're kind of consolidating everything we're doing. I know we've consolidated down to 2 911 centers in our dispatch center. Is it in the future and maybe coming down more consolidated? I don't know. I mean, it's something that we're always constantly looking at. You want to speak anything on that, Matt?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of cool things happening behind the scenes with 911 as far as technology goes. We're fortunate enough in Henry County to have a board that embraces the new technology that's coming. So now it's just getting all of that running into place so we can better protect the citizens of Geneseo and Henry County.
And we brought Matt on about a year ago, and the changes that have occurred in the last year are just tremendous. And we're better prepared by far today than we were a year ago. And a year from now, I will guarantee you we're going to be better prepared than we are today. It's a building on the building on the building on.
Exactly. It never stops. Nope. Always keep improving.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, in the past few years and with Matt coming on at the county, I mean, you can tell, we're talking about the future, talking about technology upgrades, getting Henry County and Geneseo where we need to be. And again, we talk about it a lot, but we got to give a lot of credit. We have a lot of these charitable foundations in Geneseo too. Some of these things that, other departments can't afford or may just look at as kind of, it's kind of a want item, kind of nice to have for events that can really impact the safety, especially if there was a bad actor, to come into an event into Henry County. So, our hats off to them. They've really stepped up and made some of these improvements happen for us.
They made a lot of the major improvements happen for us for the events. I mean, we wouldn't have the Pentagon barriers. We wouldn't have the gator that we use to patrol that we're able to get around on. There's lots of things that they've donated that, as a city of Geneseo, they're great, but they're expensive. I mean, those Pentagon barriers are very expensive. That gator is expensive. And the good people at the foundations have really, really, really stepped up. They see what we're trying to do, and they help us as much as they can, and I can't thank them enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you guys for both being here today. We're coming up on 8 o'clock where the school announcements will start soon here. Did want to announce a couple other things. We have the big event, the big first one, we were just talking about event season is on 4/27. That's Art Walk. That's a Chamber of Commerce event. We'll be having Zach Sullivan and Jessica from the Geneseo Chamber of Commerce in next Friday to talk all things Art Walk and what to expect on that Saturday here in Geneseo. Hopefully it's a beautiful day out for that. Also want to mention that we do have spring curbside cleanup coming up May 6th through the 9th. That's a Monday through a Thursday here in town. Check the Geneseo City website or Facebook page. We'll be posting the routes in your cleanup quadrant soon for that. And then finally, my last note is we're still looking for about 3 summer seasonal employees. So, this can be anybody, but often it's a great job for college students that might be coming back to Geneseo for the summer. Or high school students that are looking for a summertime job. Great way to get your foot in the door, especially if you're interested in staying in town, maybe looking at a job with the city or the county for that matter. Great way to meet people and take a first step into a career. So.
And what would some of these jobs typically entail?
Well, typically when you're a first-year new person, we're looking for people who are going to help out with the parks and the cemeteries in town. The city has multiple parks, 2 cemeteries. It's a lot of grass, a lot of weeds, and we need a lot of people to upkeep those, especially as we enter the summer and, well, right now for that matter, too. It's a lot of growth and a lot of lawnmowers and a lot of weed whacking going on. So that's primarily what those jobs do when you're coming in entry level.
And check out the information on the city website, or I also assume our social media outlets also have that information, or call City Hall, however you would like to do it. But it can be a good gig for the summer.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, okay. Well, I guess that's probably going to wrap it up, Brandon. We should give out your email address in case anyone has any questions or comments or specific items they would like us to discuss, and it is?
Sure. It's bmeglin at cityofgeneseo.com, BMAEGLIN at cityofgeneseo.com. And
have we ever had anyone email in?
Yes.
We did.
It is rare.
Okay.
But there have been ideas that have flowed through from some of our, I like to call them the top fans.
There
right? or past guests who say, hey, how about bringing this person on, or here's an idea. Why don't you focus on this because this event's coming up or this nonprofit's doing this? So, we, as people, if you've listened to more than one show, we try to focus on nonprofit activities, things that are city related, things that may appeal to, the citizens of Geneseo. So any ideas, we are certainly open to exploring.
We love the input. And with that, that's going to wrap it up here on this Friday morning for this week's edition of Let's Talk Geneseo. Matt, thank you very much for coming in. Also, as well, Gene, and again, hats off and shout out on the 40 years of service. Very impressive. And with that, I'm Keith Kennett for Brandon Meglin. Have a great Friday, and we'll talk to you next week.